Okay, Sean, we're at the end of May. We're heading into June. A lot of soybeans left to plant, and probably more soybeans left to plant than what we originally thought.
Sure.
So tell me some considerations that we need to be thinking about as we head to the field.
Yeah, as we go in the first week of June, this is a point where there's a lot of decisions that should be made with soybean production. And the first off is seed rates. Okay, this is an area where when you go into late May, early June, soybeans just don't develop as many nodes, so the trifoliate attachment points. And so one of our ways of managing that is to put more seeds out there so we have more of an opportunity for node production, which actually gets to pod production, in case you didn't know that. And so if we're in May, usually 140,000 seed rate's fairly common. You know, if it's a good 15, 30-inch planter, maybe a little bit higher if it's an air seeder or a drill because of just the way that places it out there. But, you know, so as you go in the first week of June, instead of 140,000, we should probably increase about 10 to 15,000 that first week of June. So now you're looking at 150, 155 seeding rates. Now, if we get into first week of June and we're still planting corn, haven't touched beans, and we go to the second week of June, guess what? We have to increase again. And so it's again another about 10 to 15,000. So by that second week of June, you're not at 150 or 155, you're up another 10 to 15. So 160, 65, maybe 170, depending on how tough that soil condition is. And you follow that all the way through the month of June. If we go every week, we keep following that through.
Okay, and now what about the actual maturity of the
Sure.
soybean?
So, you know, in a similar vein as corn, we have a latitude effect, right? You know, when you go to the northern part of the state, we're going to have a more compressed growing season, so we worry about that potential fall freeze, or at least get to the point of maturing the crop. As we go in the south, we have a little bit longer growing season. For a given region, maintain that full maturity. Let's say you're the northern tier, you're on a 3-1, 3-2. You can maintain that till about the 15th of June. At that point is when we cut back about a half unit, and we'll follow that through for another 2 weeks. So 15th of June-ish, drop it back a half a unit and follow that through. So that now 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, follow that through the month of June. As you've also increased seeding rates to help with that shorter season. You go in that central part of the state, we can maintain the full season until about the 20th of June. And then you go to the southern third, it's about the 25th of June. It's that same concept of drop back a half unit around those key points and follow it through for another 2 weeks. If we're still in this point of planting soybeans at the end of June, then we really need to start looking at fall freeze dates and kind of back calculating. And so if we get to that point, I think we should follow up on what some of the recommendations are there. But for this point, maintain until about the middle of June, and then we start to step back. And we got a nice table in the publication on that.
Yeah, and really, if you get to that date, then you're looking at double crop soybeans, basically.
Right, right. And so you think about the odds of getting a double crop soybeans in the north versus south. There's a reason we're successful in the south, and there's a reason why we have roll of the dice in the north. And so we go a little bit more extreme if we're trying to do, quote, double crop or super late planting in the north. And so it's not the conventional wisdom actually go against that in a way.
Yeah, and obviously we want to go into a clean seed bed, but there may be situations where that's not possible, Bill, depending on the genetics that the producer's growing.
Yeah, exactly. When we get to this time of the year, the pressure to get acres planted is huge. And we've gone over some of that earlier today. I think one of the key things we can think about with soybeans is that soybeans can tolerate a little bit of early season weed competition, but we want to make sure that we are able to use the appropriate tools to control the weeds when we need to spray. So for example, if we have bad problems with mare's tail, water hemp, giant rag, Palmer amaranth and things like that, planting non-GMO soybeans where we don't have any post-emerge herbicides is not a good idea. Now, on the other hand, if we have enlist or extend beans and we know we can get a field planted, but we can't get it sprayed right away, we do have the ability to come back in those traits and use some pretty powerful post-emerge herbicides. So you need to really consider the genetics that you're planting in the field and what you can do post-emergence on some of these tough broadleaf weeds.
Yeah, and one other thing, Sean, we think about fertility, and you guys have done great work on sulfur.
Sure.
A lot of folks would like to put that on prior to planting, but that's a product that we could put on post.
Yeah, and with the sulfur response, we're still at kind of the beginning stages of how often we see that response across the state. We certainly have areas that are responding. My turnkey recommendation is put it on as soon as you're planted or close to it. But again, the key is to get soybeans in the ground. We've done broadcast applications of like a granular AMS or gypsum or some of the other products that are easily dissolvable, all the way up to V4, and still seeing a pretty good response. So if we wanted to look at that, we can do that. I would not be doing an ATS spray when these beans are up. You're going to get burned, and do not be mixing the rates that I want for sulfur with a herbicide. That's just not a good idea.
Yeah. Anything we left out, Bob? Bill?
I don't think so.
Okay, I guess the last thing I'd just like to say is please be safe as we go into these. I know it's going to be incredibly long hours. And also feel free to reach out to your local A&R Extension educator located in your county who will have all these resources these guys have talked about.